Barry was born here in Oamaru in 1960. His arrival shocked his family and left doctors dumbfounded.
No, thalidomide wasn't known about. I mean, it was only in I think after 4 years that they realised that it was something that thalidomide was the cause of this deformity.
And they said to me, actually, we have got to tell you this too. We don't think he'll live much longer. And I thought, oh goodness, that's awful, and I haven't even seen him properly, you know.
Mum was obviously pregnant with me, and she got a lot of nausea. And there was a drug around at the time that was very new and very exciting. It was a drug that would stop the nausea and was very safe for pregnant women. So Mum took this drug called thalidomide.
Because I was very sick. I couldn't keep food down at all. I've never been so sick. And when I arrived there, he just said, oh, do you know, there's just been a traveller in today. And he said, I'll just give you a small number of pills, I think probably 4, but I only took 2.
Thalidomide is an anti-nausea medication. In the late 1950s, it was prescribed to pregnant women for morning sickness. It caused serious birth defects in over 10,000 babies in 42 countries.
I was actually in labour, and he examined me and he said, oh, you're going to have a very small baby. And I said, but you always said that it was a big baby. And I thought, oh. When Barry was born, there was silence.
They took me away and wouldn't let Mum see me, rang my father and said, look, you've had this deformed child. We think the best thing for him would be to take him away and put him in an institution and forget you had him.
And then they whisked him away, which was very wrong. I would hope they wouldn't do that in today's, if anything like that happened, because I think it's pretty hard on a mother to just have a newborn child whisked away, but they probably thought they were doing the right thing.
And when Barry was born, what did the doctor say to you?
He said, I'm sorry, but we've got bad news about your son. And I said, oh, what sort of bad news? And they said, well, he's got no arms. And I said, no arms? He said, no. I said, oh, well, he'll be able to play soccer. And they looked at me very strange. He did. He looked at me very strange.
The thalidomide tragedy sparked really a revolution in the way we think about drug safety. And as a consequence of that, the regulatory authorities worldwide introduced, firstly, much stricter pre-launch testing. But probably the biggest and most significant impact was they instituted what they called post-marketing surveillance. In other words, once the drug was out there in the community and starting to be used, we had very intensive programs to pick up at a very early stage consequences of harm. And that didn't exist before that. It changed our thinking about the way in which we should allow drugs to be used.
I didn't get to see him for about 2 days after that. And one of the wee nurses, I said to her, look, do you mind bringing Barry in? I'd like to see him. She said, I'm not supposed to, but I will. She did. She got sick. Anyway, they said I could go home. So I thought I was taking Barry with me, but oh no, couldn't take him home.
What did they think would happen to you and Barry if you did take him home?
God knows. I don't know.
But in the beginning,
They
you know?
didn't know, that's why. They'd had no experience with anything like that.
Well, you've got to remember in those days, doctors were gods. They were the people that, whatever the doctor said, you did. You know, they were the people that knew everything about everything. So they just went on the advice of the doctor, basically saying, well, if that's the best place, because the doctor said I was going to be with my own kind, that there'd be other people like me and the people would know how to look after me. So for the family, I don't think they'd even seen me at that stage. They just knew that I was the way I was. So for them, it was, well, the doctor said that, so that's probably the best idea. But Mum managed to con a nurse aide into seeing me, fell in love with me, and for the next 9 months went up and down to the hospital twice a day to feed me and see me.
Well, it was quite steep, and I would get my meals all ready first thing in the morning when I got up, and then I'd get up to the hospital and feed Barry.
So you walked up there every day for how long?
Oh, how many years? No, it wasn't years, but it seemed like years. But it would have been 9 months, which seemed, I mean, my day was just like that. I didn't have to go up there every day, but I couldn't keep away. And it was good. And after that 9 months, I just this day thought, right, I'm taking him home. So I rang the doctor and I said who I was. And I said, I'm bringing Barry home. And he said, oh, don't do that. I said, I am. And he said, oh, you'll rue the day. I said, no, I won't. Home is where he should be. And he said, I can't stop you. I said, no, well, I'm getting in the car right now. So up I went and brought him home. And he was fine. He's a good baby.
Mum's the sort of woman that will do what she thinks. It doesn't matter what you say. If Mum believes that's the right thing, she will do it. So you can't sway her. And so for her, it was just the natural thing to do. I'll take my son home and bring him up the way I want to bring him up. So, I mean, she basically didn't listen to anybody other than what was in her heart, which was to take me home.
And what was the reaction from sort of people around you? Because this would have been quite unusual.
It was terrible. It was okay in my own neighbourhood because my daughter fixed that. She was only, 2? And she ran away over to the neighbours and she said, Mum's bathing Barry, do you want to come over and watch? So I did, and all of a sudden there was people from there and people from there, and I was thinking, what the hell's going on, you know? And they said, oh, we've just come to see Barry have his bath. And I thought, oh, God. Oh, I said, oh, that's fine. They said, Jan invited us. So she wanted to show her brother off anyway.
There was a huge what Mum had to deal with because, of course, prejudice was really rife. And so having a son with no arms, I mean, Mum would tell me that when I was in the pushchair, you know, all tucked up, and people want to come up, oh, let's look at the lovely baby. And they'd come up and look in the bassinet or the pram and then walk off. They wouldn't say a word. They'd just walk off. And a lot of her friends wouldn't come around and visit because they didn't know what to say. They were too scared of saying the wrong thing.
I wanted to talk to people, and I've seen them cross the street and they're friends. And I'd think, oh, God. Oh, well, they'll probably come round in time, and they did. But it was pretty lonely in the first few months I had him home. But, no, it worked out well. It's the best thing I ever did.
Mum's a determined woman, and I think that's been the story of my life, having this lady around has actually made me who I am, because she's always kept me at home. She was there for me. She really made it possible for me to grow up in Oamaru and become who I am, really. Hey.
Yeah.
Life in a small town was both a blessing and a curse. So what's it like being back in your hometown?
Freaky.
Is it?
It's quite, I got sort of used to being away.
Yeah.
We just worked out I've been away for 29 years.
Because you were pretty keen to get away from the place, weren't you, when you were younger?
I did. I wanted to get away. I wanted to break away from the family influence, because as you've noticed around here, there's a lot of my family.
We've already bumped into a few, haven't we?
Absolutely. They were really caring and wanted to be there for me, but were too protective.
Mm-hmm.
Barry's part of a large, well-known family in Oamaru. Many of them sided with doctors, believing Barry's mother wouldn't cope.
Back at our old home.
Yep, cool, eh?
Yeah.
It's looking good.
That's it.
See the ramps that Dad put in because they thought I'd never walk?
Well, there you go. You just never know.
See the little kitchen and the little bar?
Yeah.
And that was all done for me.
So she'll put these up.
Yeah.
Ladies
Oh,
and
that's
The colour's just fabulous. It was really great having the pool out here, because in the middle of the night I used to get quite hot, and so I was able to come and jump in the pool and cool off, and then go back to bed, which, because I'm thalidomide, I overheat quite a bit. Nowadays I don't get as hot, because as I've got older I think my blood's thinned out, but I still swim. I love my swimming. And I like to go in whenever I can, because it's weightless, and I actually feel really great in the water. It makes me feel like I'm the same as everybody else. The weightlessness, I don't need the wheelchair. It's just so much easier. I'm proud of who I am and the way I look. So it doesn't bother me in the slightest to be in the pool with everyone else. I don't feel a need to cover up or be any different to anyone else. Often it gives people, oh, so that's what he looks like. Oh, that's because people often say you got no arms, but if you got fingers. But when I'm in swimming, they can see I actually don't have fingers. I'm more expressive too.
Wherever Barry went, he faced shocked reactions and constant stares.
Well, I'll tell you how bad it was. I got used to it, and I thought, well, you can't blame them. He is different. And this day we got home, because it was always quite a thing. We walked into town because it was not far, and he said, I don't want to go to town anymore, Mum. And I said, why not? Because I knew he loved going. All those people, he said, and they just stare at me all the time. And I said, do you know why? And he said, no. And I said, well, you're a wee bit different, because you've got no arms and your legs are shorter and that, Barry, but you know, we love you the way you are. And I said, they're not being nasty. So he never mentioned it again. And he never said he didn't want to go after that.
When I was a lot younger, I mean, I was really young, I used to feel that I didn't belong, that I actually wasn't from this world. And I used to imagine a planet where there was people like me, and there was a guy that was 6 foot tall on this planet, and I was here, and one day we would be switched back, and I'd be on a planet where I felt like I belonged, and there'd be people like me, and I'd be able to do everything myself, just like they would, because it'd be all set up for me. And it helped me get through quite a bit, actually.
I didn't think he would walk, but he thought he would walk. One day he just walked, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
Can you remember how old I was?
I think you'd be 3, 3.5.
So I was a slow learner.
No, you just didn't have the right equipment.
How did I get around before that?
On your bottom.
Just shuffle along.
Yeah.
There's no wheelchairs for kids. There was nothing really for disabled children. So the only way I could get around was in a baby's pram. So we made a game of it. My mates made a game of going over the gutters and bouncing over them and going up any ramps and jumping off the end and doing anything we could to actually destroy these prams. I bet you don't see that very often. Milk bar.
Yeah. Was this a milk bar when you were young?
And it's exactly the same, and that's where Lindsay and I used to hang out on a Friday night.
Oh, really?
That was that big thing, is to come to the Lagonda and you'd meet other people there. And as you can see the whole street. And this is the guy that really sparked it off. I mean, you've met my mum that got me started, and then Lindsay come along, and he was there all the time. We were. I can't say. I mean, we were inseparable.
Too much fun not to be around.
Yeah.
We never really saw Barry as being too much different. Probably because been friends ever since before I can remember, primary school. And primary school you'd meet Barry and you'd find out why you're looking like that. And you either accept it or you don't. And we just accepted Barry, and he's always treated normal by everybody. And we were probably an inspiration to one another, actually, with every time somebody says, "Oh, I can't do that." Well, why can't you do it? Let's have a crack.
This is Oamaru North School. This was the first school I came to. It was great because it was close to home. Initially, the school was really reluctant to take me because I had a disability, but after many negotiations, they were okay with it. Mum came with me on the first day, and then apparently I told her to go home. It was a good place. As I got older, the younger kids would come into the school and see me as different and would sort of make fun of me, but the older kids used to be quite protective and would say to them that I was just Barry, and it became quite a normal thing. It would only be in the first few days or the first few weeks of the new school year that they'd give me a hard time, and then it would just be settling back into normal life at school. When I started school, disabled kids just didn't go to a regular school. This school was hadn't catered for disabled people at all. And it wasn't until about my last year they started having special units in schools, because most disabled people were put into residential services where the education was there for them. So it was very unusual. And being a small town, there were no special services for people like myself.
So this is where you boys would be hanging out on the corner on a Friday night?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes, it certainly was. So we'd come in here, have a milkshake, and then after a while we'd get sick of that, and then we would go up the street and have a look around and chat up the girls. Well, our day running them over was the way to chat them up.
Running them over?
Well, Lindsay, he'd push from behind and we'd go up behind the girls, and he'd just sort of gently run into them and they'd fall into my lap.
It sounds like a great trick.
Well, it was and it wasn't, because all they'd do is get a fright.
So it didn't quite have the desired effect then?
Well, we were young. We didn't know how to chat up girls in those days.
What couldn't he do? Couldn't drive a car in later years, so I did the driving, and Barry's mum lent us the car, and we'd go out, round out in the town. In the later years, it's after the scooter years, the wheelchair years, and then Mum's car years.
And then we went out and took Mum's car onto the wharf and did wheelies in it. Did really good wheelies, eh?
Yeah, that wasn't a very clever thing to do, was it? That wasn't very clever at all.
You sort of question where you're going or what life's going to be like, and it's like no one has an answer because you're disabled. You know, people can say, well, you can do this or you can do that. I mean, the one good thing was Lindsay was always there to say, well, you'll do it, you know, and as you've heard, Mum was the same. And then you used to push me into them. We'd go out the street. It was so embarrassing. And they'd eat up my lap. You wonder if you'll ever find somebody that you can settle down with and have the normal life that everybody has. And I think that sort of stuff, and what are you going to do for a living? You know, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Are you going to drive? Are you going to be able to do the things that everyone else does? These guys never questioned it. They never doubted it, whereas for me, it was always in the back of my mind. And when I started to realise that I was disabled, because I say that really in a meaningful way, because I never really thought about it until I was in my teens, these guys found it really difficult because I was starting to identify myself as being disabled. And they said, well, you're not, you're just Barry. I mean, it was just like...
The whole group, all
Yeah.
our friends all did the same, eh?
Yeah.
They all just said, no, come on, pick yourself up. I can recall one time when your disability really did get you down, and I don't know if your mum ever heard about it, but there was one time, and while the swimming pool was empty, you were going to dive into the swimming pool.
Yep.
Head first, just to finish your life. And it was one time when I really had nothing to say. I couldn't argue. I couldn't say, yeah, there's everything to live for, because he was down because of how tough life was, and I couldn't argue with that. And I was blown away. I was helpless. I couldn't help you on that occasion.
But you did. The fact that you were just there, you know, because I wasn't alone. I mean, I think that the fact that you didn't have anything to say, but you were there, that meant a lot. Yeah, I still remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Did Mum ever know, or is she going to hear it on telly?
It's really funny because you think of yourself as so different that sometimes you think you'd be better off not being here than actually having to put up with the difficulties that life throws at you. It was sort of early teens. A lot of teenagers go through it anyway. You go through that suicidal phase. But being disabled, it just compounded the whole thing and put a whole lot of different layers on there.
While we were filming, a little boy came over to Barry, a child delighted to find someone else who was
Do
different.
you want to show them your toes? They're pretty cool.
Geez, you've got a real grip of New Zealand there, haven't you? Ah, can you use those? Oh, that's so cool. Good on you. It's cold though, isn't it? Well, I suppose I better go because they're making this film on me.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to say hello. I really appreciate it. Good on you. I often think about how my life would have been if Mum hadn't kept me, and it would have been completely different. I would have had the opportunities that I have, or the attitude. I look at my attitude towards life and it's very much the same as everyone else's. I haven't had that institutional behaviour that you get when you live in an institution. So it's meant that I've always wanted to go out there, and I've always believed that I can do things because I've had to do them. It's not something where people tell you can't do it because you're out there doing it anyway. My philosophy is that you've got to give something a go, and it's okay to fail. One of the problems with a lot of disabled people is they're not given that opportunity to fail. And when you're brought up as a normal human being, you learn more from your failures than you do your successes because you learn how to do it better. And so for me, having that opportunity to fail and succeed was a really important part of my growth, and the ability for me to actually take up the challenge of life, really.
Were you here?
I have no idea whatsoever. I don't even know what the photo is. I can't start again.
Should we try that again?
Yeah.
Were you here, Barry?
I'm in Holland. I went over to Holland to look for artificial arms.
Why were you travelling to the other side of the world to get...
Well, we'd heard that they had really good artificial arms that were better than anywhere else in the world in Holland, so we went to have a look and found that they were just the same as here. But I ended up getting a car instead of getting the artificial arms, so ended up driving instead of having the arms. So it wasn't a waste of a trip. It actually turned out to be better than it could have been. Now I understand that what they were trying to do is make me look the same as everybody else. So they even gave me artificial legs, you know, so I was taller, and gave me these arms, and they weren't really much use, other than trying to make me look like everybody else.
And what happened when you left town? Because your mum was saying that, you know, that was pretty heartbreaking for her. She knew that you wanted to go, but, you know, she was...
She was really good about it. You could tell that she was upset, but she just allowed us to, she knew I had to do it. I got lectures from uncles about how I should stay close to where they could look after me, and that I'd always need looking after, so it's better to stay, you know, where I could have that, but I just had to get away.
What about when Barry left home? Were you worried about him?
The time I worried most was when he went hitchhiking. That was terrible. Way on his own, hitchhiking. Oh, I couldn't sleep, and he never got in touch at all. He just went away and come smiling back when he'd finished.
Barry left home and Oamaru and got right on with his life. He travelled and tried his hand at everything from being a DJ to working for health boards. He got married, became a dad. Now he's a successful businessman running an organisation that supports people with disabilities.
I mean, the reality is, I was born as a result of a drug. I mean, it didn't really mean a lot to me growing up. That wasn't the main focus. It was about getting on with life was the real focus of thinking about it. And people have often said, do I feel angry? And I say no, because what's the point? Anger doesn't get you anywhere unless you're using it as a positive thing. To me, I am thalidomide. That's what caused me to be disabled, but I am disabled. I'm actually quite proud to be disabled and having achieved things, because it's an important part of life. And anybody can do anything, whether you're disabled or able-bodied, but you've actually got to want to do it. It's easy to find reasons why not to do things. That's the easy part. The hard part's actually seeing why you can do things.